What if a government's main job wasn't to rule, but to obey? Well, today we're going to take a journey deep into the mountains of Chiapas, Mexico. We're going to explore this really radical experiment in self-governance that's been thriving for decades now. We'll dive into 7 key lessons from this experiment, and honestly, they might just change how you think about power altogether.
So, this is the sign that greets you when you enter their territory. I mean, think about that for a second. It's not just some catchy slogan, it's the core belief of their entire society. It completely flips our usual understanding of power right on its head. So, the big question is, how do they actually pull this off?
So, where are we getting all this from? Well, our guide for this explainer is an activist who visited the Zapatistas about 2 decades after their 1994 uprising. He wanted to see what happens after the revolution, how they shifted from armed conflict to this incredible, non-violent civil resistance, building their own schools, their own justice system, and their own healthcare, totally separate from the Mexican state.
So what he found, he boiled down into 7 core principles. We're going to break them down, starting with the first 4, which all circle around this revolutionary idea of what it actually means to be a leader and to serve your community. Okay, first up, the first principle is to lead by obeying. And wow, does this create a contrast with politics as we know it? In Zapatista territory, being a leader is an unglamorous, unpaid, part-time job. It's civil service. You don't see big campaigns because, hey, there's no money in it. The community itself identifies people who are qualified, and they serve on a rotating basis, all while still working their day jobs to support their families. The whole point is to avoid that cult of personality that just dominates so much of modern politics. And that idea flows right into the second principle, to represent, not replace. Leaders aren't chosen to go off and impose their own grand vision. Nope, they are simply entrusted to carry out the will of the people they represent. This whole system, it's built on a really deep shared trust that the community can and should govern itself. And let me tell you, they take this idea of accountability incredibly seriously. The author tells this great story where he tried to give a copy of the Occupy Wall Street Journal to his Zapatista guide. A simple, friendly gesture, right? Well, it immediately created a problem. His guide couldn't just take the newspaper. And you might be asking, why? Well, because as a representative, his actions weren't really his. They belonged to the collective. He wasn't there to replace their judgment with his own, not even for something as tiny as accepting a newspaper. He was accountable to them and felt he needed their permission first. So here's the kicker. This small gift, this newspaper, it prompted a full formal meeting with the Regional Good Government Council. They took down the author's name, his organization, and they carefully considered the gift before officially approving it. I mean, that just shows you how deep their commitment to process and collective decision-making really goes. Okay, so you might be wondering, how does anyone have time for all of this? That brings us to the third principle, work from below, which is all rooted in this concept of trabajo colectivo. It's this basic idea, right, that every single person has a duty to chip in with unpaid work for the good of the whole community. But it's always balanced, so they still have time for their own jobs to support their families. And you see this principle in action all over the place. For instance, the local clinic is staffed by an unsalaried doctor who just works 8 days a month. That's his contribution. The dentist was trained right there in the community by a visitor and now serves everyone. They have bakery collectives, music collectives, even local stores where all the profits go right back to funding things like the clinic. It's a system that's literally built on mutual support. All of this, it really builds up to the fourth principle, to serve, not self-serve. It's summed up perfectly in their famous slogan, para todos todo, para nosotros nada. Everything for everyone, nothing for ourselves. And it's not really about being a martyr. It's about building a society where the collective good makes sure that everyone is taken care of. Just look at their health system for a really powerful example. They run it on a principle of precio justo, which means a just price. This means services and medicines are provided at cost. Now, what do you think at cost means for, say, a dental visit? Go on, take a guess. $1.50. Yeah, that's it. For a regular cleaning or even getting a cavity filled. Now, when the author tried to explain that back home in the US, the same procedure could cost over $2,000, the Zapatista dentist literally couldn't wrap his head around it. This comparison just perfectly illustrates the massive difference between a system designed for service and one that's designed for profit. All right, so the last 3 principles, they're a little different. They move beyond the structure of government and start to dig into a whole new philosophy of power itself, one that's all about dialogue, building things up, and humility. Principle number 5 is to convince, not conquer. So instead of some leader at the top just imposing their will, every new idea is brought to a community assembly. It's discussed, it's debated, it gets revised. The goal isn't to win the argument or beat an opponent. The goal is to find consensus through patient conversation and, just listening.
And that constructive vibe leads us right to number 6, to construct, not destroy. Sure, they rose up in opposition to the old system, but their energy ever since has been focused on building their own world, on planting new seeds and constructing their own institutions from the ground up.
They've built their own schools that teach their own history of resistance. They've created a justice system that's about restoring harmony, not just punishing people. They didn't just protest unfair land ownership. They actually reclaimed land and built new communities on it. They are actively, right now, constructing the society they want to live in.
So what's the ultimate goal here? What is the big idea that ties all of this together? Well, it's a vision that goes way beyond the borders of Chiapas. It's all captured in this beautiful phrase, a world in which many worlds fit. This is really the heart of Zapatista philosophy. It's this deep commitment to pluralism. It's not about saying our way is the best way. It's about saying, hey, our world deserves a place here too, just like everybody else's.
So don't get it twisted. This isn't a traditional separatist movement trying to carve out a new country. Their vision is so much bigger. They see themselves as part of a global meta-movement. A network of local movements, each fighting for their own autonomy, building real democracy from the bottom up.
And all of this leaves us with a final, pretty challenging question. The Zapatista experiment really forces us to ask, what if good government isn't something we just wait around for or vote for every few years? What if it's something we have to actually build ourselves in our own communities every single day?